Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, hope you're not bored yet. We are the government. We've been mentioned quite a lot from this morning's session and the session from the VC just now. Well, again, just to be clear, the government is quite huge. We are not the regulators, we are not the policy makers, but let's hear us out. We are from the R&D agencies, and we're going to share what we are doing to prepare for the AV era. So again, we have the Dr. Pasan from Department of Science Services under the new ministry with a long name, Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation, but we call them MESSI. If you are the football fan, soccer fan, well, that's the name. And Dr. Chatawat from NECTEC. Okay, so let's hear from the technical researcher, Dr. Pasan first. If the government is to prepare for the AV era, essentially, what do we need to do first?
This is a fireside chat, right? It has to be funny, isn't it? Okay.
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I think the government is kind of a culprit in a way in every country. It's not only Thailand. But anyway, you need us in order to run. So there are two things that I think that you need to prepare for the AV in terms of the government. First of all, I would like to mention the awareness of you guys, the people inside the country. Every time when you have a new technology, the user is a defining factor that this technology is going to go or is going to go to dust. So it is very important for the government and also the other stakeholder to involve the user into the experience of the new technology. For example, in terms of AV, if you do want to have AV on the street for a long time, and you need to get the user to get involved very fast. First-hand experience is good. Not just show them in the YouTube or anything, but if you have the ability to bring in the AV or build your own AV and then let the public try it, the earlier the better. The other part is about, of course, rules and regulation, because we are government. The number one concern of the government is the safety of the public. But I agree that the government cannot focusing too hard on the rule and regulation, because this is new technology. You need creativity element inside. If you start to clamp on the rule and regulation too much, then the creativity will not be there. So yes, so there are two things.
Right. So just to recap a little, we are focusing on the public awareness. Okay. So how people will adopt to the technology. If you heard the news, Waymo is trying their services in Pittsburgh, and there are those entire technology people, I'm trying to use the baseball bat to hit the car and so on. And so we are having some strategy that we would like to follow just to get the public people aware of this autonomous driving technology. The other part is because we are not the regulators, we are not policymaker, we are not part of the Ministry of Transport. We have certain strategy to follow. Hopefully that once we achieve those activities, that we can convince people to have the right policy for the incoming AV. So now I heard that Dr. Basan was involved with a few government agencies. May I ask who are those agencies and what have you done so far to get them to collaborate?
Yeah, I think stakeholders is very important. To prepare for this kind of technology, you have to really understand who is your players. From our side, you always heard the news Thai government have so many agencies that are working on the same thing at the same time and never talk to each other. So this is what we want to fix. And last month we start the MOU at first. We try to get the stakeholder from the government side, which is the Ministry of Transport, and also on our own ministry to join hands in order to learn. It's called the Learn and the Study on the AV technology in order to make the the right decision on how to make the regulation, rules, and policies. The other part of the stakeholders is also the public part. We would like to engage onto the people, with the company, startups, SME. We are trying very hard, to build this kind of ecosystem. What you said. This is also in our effort to build something like that, maybe in a consortium in a way.
Right, thank you. Now, being part of the government, people are expecting us to build the infrastructures. Would Dr. Jadawat mind elaborating what kind of infrastructure we need to prepare for either building the prototypes or for the commercial players to come in to the scene, please?
So from the technical point of view, we are the research institute, but we don't just do research. We don't just build prototypes. We encourage people to get involved with the project. For example, we work with the universities. We work with the government agencies in order to first we need to get some talents into the field. We are building the team, and also that's the one aspect of the infrastructure, right? So we also need physical infrastructure. We also need the digital infrastructure. So in terms of physical infrastructure, we need maybe some kind of a smart road, something like that, HD map. So that is something that maybe Dr. Pasan can say a few words about it.
Yeah, I think the infrastructure is very important, but again, it depends on the technology. You might have heard Waymo is, I think, the most advanced one. I think they are now can be claimed like level 5, but of course with the rule and regulation they cannot do it. The technology such as Waymo, I don't think you need to change much of the infrastructure at all. You can just tell the vehicle to go from A to B and it just do it for you. You don't have to care about anything. But do we need that? Can you just have a maybe dumber AV in order to make it a little bit less smarter, and then you focus more on the infrastructure. So in that way, of course, we have to go in and then start to check out which kind of infrastructure you need to be discussed. HD map, of course, is especially for the LiDAR-based AV. Maybe if the technology like Tesla, maybe you don't need a map at all because Mr. Elon Musk say it's camera only is okay. What about road attributes? This morning there is a government, the gentleman, they said he drive onto a Thai road, you have lanes and all of a sudden the lanes are gone. So this kind of thing can kill your AV. So of course we need to take care of that kind of infrastructure. There's another kind of infrastructure which is I call it digital infrastructure. Maybe you can share something with them.
So from the point of view of the AV, the robot car, we have, for example, a LiDAR sensor. We have a vision camera and also a GPS sensor. So this kind of sensor data, we need to fuse them. So that is called doing sensor fusion. So that is a lot of data that we need to handle. So because just the data, just raw data, we cannot do much about it. We need to process the thing. So doing process on this kind of data, it requires a lot of computation power. So maybe some kind of a communication between the node, the center, that's also important. So for example, the existing 4G network, we can definitely make use of that. But we can also prepare for the future that the technology of 5G can provide us. For example, the higher bandwidth or the lower latency, we can definitely make use of that.
Okay, so what I'm catching from Dr. Jadawat is that 4G network is adequate for the building a prototype, only having a few vehicles in your fleet. But once we are to build the large-scale AV fleets, we need the newer telecom standard, for example, the 5G. Now, I heard that because it's AV, it's autonomous. Autonomous is kind of coincide with the term AI, right? And the commonly used technique right now for AI is called deep neural networks. Would you be able to elaborate a little bit more on how deep neural networks come to play for autonomous vehicle, please, Dr. Jatuwat?
So for us, driving a car is a very simple task for us who have the driver's license, right? So, but that is something that we do. We don't think too much about it. It's a skill that we learn. So it's a skill that we learn. We drive a car. We don't think too much about it, but it involves safety. One place to another. It involves operating a mechanical thing, right? So, but from the computer perspective, it's not that straightforward. So, from the computer's perspective, we problem that is. All the layers are fused together into this deep neural network. So it's mimicking our human ability to drive a car. So that requires a lot of things. That requires a lot of data, with a lot of data that we need to prepare for the neural network to learn, and also the computation of this data.
Oh, I may have something to add on this point. For the data part, as of now, autonomous vehicle, mostly they compute and compute inside the vehicle itself. But who knows in the future if you have 5G, 6G, XG, the computation may be in somewhere on the cloud and you shoot back to the vehicle in order to reduce the specification of your computing hardware, for example. Another thing is the map. The map depends on the technology of the map. If you have a very not that good map, you're going to have very big data on the map itself. Let's say you're going to drive from Bangkok to Chiang Mai, right? Do you have to preload the map inside your vehicle? It's going to be a huge thing to have on your hard disk drive. But if it is on the cloud, then you can update it in section, maybe even real time, I don't know. So that depends a lot on the digital infrastructure. That's one.
Okay, so to recap again, I think the autonomous driving in the old days it's been called automated driving, and that's been built in the major automakers, for example, in Japan for almost 2 decades. But what distinguishes the newer technology is these deep neural networks, or in the simpler term, is the computer vision, how we teach the machine to understand the image, the vision. Now, let's say that our project has becomes fruitful and we have the prototype going. Dr. Pasan, what do you think how we can go from there to to get those things actually in operation, either in the business or in the actual public road?
Yeah, I think we have to consider what is the strong point for Thailand, what kind of industry that we have in the back of in our back. When you look at it, you will see automotive, right? You see the industry that take care about to build a bus, to build a truck, a big one, logistic vehicle. So let's say, in my own opinion, I think we should go into that direction instead of going to compete head-ons with Waymo, which I don't. Everyone gonna laugh like Thailand stand up to it. We can use the technology from others, but as I said before, it doesn't have to be like very 100% fully autonomous. You can also use a very simple autonomous technology and then apply to, let's say, the bus. And then you can create your own business out of that. Like the gentleman in the last session that say the feeder, right? So I think we should go into that kind of direction, autonomous feeder. For the closed environment first, we don't have to go to open environment. Closed and open means closed means you don't have too many disturbance, not too many car driving by human to get involved with you. So closed environment. Then after that, maybe open environment with low speed. I think we will have some chance to get this kind of business going.
And I think that's actually coming back to the first point about public awareness. If we can get our prototype working, running, operating in the industrial zone or in the private property development area and so on, I think people will get the actual feel of how the autonomous vehicles are actually working and not feel threatened by this new technology. We also, I heard that Dr. Basan is also organizing the Consortium, the Autonomous Vehicle Consortium. I think we only have just a couple of minutes left. We'd like to say a few words about the consortium that you plan.
It sounds like a recruitment. No, we are open, of course, for the foreign investor, domestic investor, startups. I already mentioned startup and the company. It's not the era that we have to compete with each other just yet, because the technology is not yet mature. It's the time for us to work together first in all sectors, researchers, business persons, everyone who has interest in mobility. I think mobility is very interesting, and I agree with that gentleman. I don't remember his name. He said, don't go into mobility because it's too difficult. I take that as a challenge that I think we should go heads on with it, because this is the trend that the world's going to come toward us. If we don't prepare, we mean Thailand, I think we're going to, we don't want to go backward again.
Right. I think another purpose of the consortium is that we are not competing with the private sectors. What we want to do is to build a prototype, and what we can also do is do technology transfer. We can help transforming our SMEs in automotive to become and having a new business in sensor fusions, and then having new startups. The corporates can also turn into the autonomous driving system integrator as well. So if anyone is interested to discuss about our AV consortium, please feel free to approach any of us after this. So thanks again for listening in, and hope we haven't bored you so much. So thanks again. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. And here is the topic: preparing for autonomous vehicle. And lastly, the last topic for today, we're going